Hey, how's it going? So, with Bitcoin looking like it wants to do its thing, looking here, this looks really good. Blah, 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 blah. That is exciting. Hopefully, it plays out similar in a similar way as it has in the past, where we're putting in a bottom here. We're hitting a lot of different indicators that are showing us that we have found a foundation. So that's good. Looking at Bitcoin here on a high time frame, on the monthly BTZ score has triggered. We're sitting here at the bottom of the log regression band. We're sitting here. We found support on the cost of Bitcoin cost of production. Um, we can even put on the 200 weekly moving average. Found support there pretty much perfectly. So all these previous supports are all lined up and currently holding. So that's good news. So, assuming that that's going to hold, what are some options for us to get into? Well, let's take a look. Oh, here's another interesting one that I was just looking at. Uh, Stablecoins, bearish divergence, which is nice. I thought I had this over somewhere else. Maybe I had it here. Where are we for this one? And we can see clearly that we have bearish divergence, depending on where you want to go. If you want to go here to the wicks, or if you want to go to the full candles, doesn't matter. It's the same picture. Bearish divergence on altcoins. So if we get a fall, sorry, in on stables, if we get a fall on stables, typically that money goes into altcoins, Bitcoin, and that's what we want to see. So that's exciting. Lots of nice charts to look at. So we'll see what happens here over the coming weeks and months. So now I'm looking at, out of the list of coins that I like personally, which ones are showing a good level to get into. Let's take a look at Tau. How is Tau looking? Let's look at Tau on the daily. It's a little overbought here on the daily. Maybe we get another turnaround here on Tau, but it's never guaranteed, especially if we get some positive news in the market, which we have been getting with oil, with the war. They're saying that oil starting to move through the Strait of Hormuz right now, and I've just read that starting Friday, it's going to be completely wide open as they plan on signing the peace agreement in Switzerland on Friday the 19th. So, uh, yeah, hopefully that works out for the sake of the world. Um, we also have the FOMC meeting coming up here this week, midweek. Warsh's first FOMC meeting as chair. He was he was on the board years back, but this is his first meeting in the current regime and first meeting as Fed chair. So lots of eyeballs going to be on that to hear what he has to say. He's going to get some help. It seems like uh, Trump and Bassett appointed him for a purpose. And now that we have the war winding down and oil flowing, at least apparently, then that frees him up to be dovish. And that's what I expect. I expect something. I don't expect cuts, but I expect pause, and I expect him to say, transitory. The oil is going to be flowing. He expects inflation to start coming down. He's going to be watching the trimmed mean PCE, which cuts out the extremes. Last print last month, I think on the 25th, was uh, 2.3 2.3% inflation, opposed to uh, core PCE that Powell was using, that was 3.3. So a full percent different, um, on the positive side if you want low inflation. So that's good news. I'm curious to see how that all plays out. I think it's going to be positive, even though there are a lot of bears out there that are wanting it to be negative. All right, so Tau, bit tensor. I like it, but it's a little oversold on the day, or a little bit extended on the daily. How are we looking on the 6 hour? Still extended. Makes me a little bit nervous buying it at these levels. I thought it was going to go lower here, but it reversed. I like it, but I don't know. I don't want to rush in, even though things can turn really quickly here. Let's take a look at render. Render, this is where I sold my position on render. It's down about 25% or so. Yeah, 25%, 24% maybe. It's a little more accurate. Anyways, from where I sold it. So if I got a new bag now, I would get 24% more tokens than I originally had for the same price, which is nice, of course. Let's take a look at, pull up the BDZ. Let's pull up, oops, MACD. Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, this is high time frame. Let's go down a little lower. Well, this is positive on the daily. It looks like it's might be starting to turn. It's starting to roll over a little bit here on the RSI and even on the MACD. You can see that it was a little bit, had a little rejection here. A little rejection there on the BDZ score. Let me get rid of this. But this is positive, but we can get something like this, right? Where it just hangs out a little bit more. But we're down here. Okay, let's take a look at what this looks like. Zooming out a little bit more, throw some lines up here, see if we can get a good picture of where we are here. Let me see. If it's something like this where we have some support down here at the bottom and we have some resistance up here at the top, we're much closer to the top than we are at the bottom. What do we have for horizontal support? We have lots of, well, not lots, but we have some horizontal support down here, as we can see. Down here we have some horizontal support. That is really thick. I don't like that. There we go. So yeah, we've got some horizontal support there. Maybe a little here in this range. We're sitting there now. If we go back down to here, then that's another 24%. If that happens, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It would sure be nice to be able to get uh, a 50% bigger bag, right? Since we sold up here, 40%, 45, 50% bigger bag for the same amount of dollars if we make it down into this range. Yeah, okay. So that is the conundrum. That is the problem. Do we get excited because of the potential bullish narrative this week and start adding to our positions, building our positions that we want? Or do we try to continue to remain patient? Bitcoin has been doing pretty well. It pumped and it's cooling off. It pumped above 67 today. Now it's cooling a little bit. Okay, let's take a look at the 3 day here. What does that look like? Again, the 3 day, it doesn't look too hot right now. That doesn't mean it can't just take off, of course, but here on the BDZ score, we can see it basically rejected off the moving average and rolling back down. Currently, I'm just, I hate jumping in when we're so close to, when we're closer to the top than we are to the bottom. I don't like doing that. What else do we have here? So for me, for now, I feel like it's a wait on render and a wait on Tau, even though I might miss something. Um, Maybe I'll take a small position on render just to kind of start building out my bag, because in the long run, I think that this is going to be anywhere in this range is going to be a good buy in the long run. Um, but maybe I'll start. Maybe I'll put in a percentage of my desired overall position just in case, because there's a lot that things can turn around quick, especially if some of these uncertainties start getting cleared up. Um, that something happens, something big happens with the Clarity Act, if something good happens um, with the FOMC meeting, if the deal gets signed and oil starts flowing and markets are very positive. And I don't want to be totally on the sideline. I'm not. I have Bitcoin exposure. I have some Tau exposure. I have SUI exposure. But I don't have exposure to all of the coins that I like yet. So, and these are ones that are currently red compared to the other ones that I like that are green. I like Grass. I like Peak. A little further down the line when we get into more low cap uh, time in the market. Excuse me. Hype. I like Hype. Kind of in between right now where I had my sells and my take profits. Still, like, look, it's been up here for so long, and I think they're doing like a giveaway or a some type of event for users where they're eventually going to be doing an airdrop, and all these people are just going to be selling it. And I don't want to buy when we're super high overextended when I know that there's going to be some sort of sell event. I don't know when it is. It could be days, could be weeks, could be a couple months away, but I'm not married to it. I'm in here to make money, so I'm going to try to be patient. And if it takes off and I miss it, then okay, I'll buy something else. Excuse me. Um, those are the main. Let's see down here. We've got FET. Let's take a look at FET. FET looks interesting. It's been holding this range, right? It's kind of looking similar to what we've seen it do over here, and what we've seen it do over here before it had a big move. So if we take a look at it on the 2 day, it's still pointing up. On the weekly, it hasn't fully extended. Let's see where we were before. We were kind of in this range here before it took off. Down here, we were low. We hung out. Right, we hung out in this kind of mid range. It looks a little bit like this before it took off, but it did fall off here in November 2020, where or 2022, when everything fell off because of FTX. So this was FTX. FTX didn't happen. It would have hung out around this kind of mid range here before going off. It's hanging out around this mid range here before going off, and now we're in around the mid range, a little bit higher, about around the mid range right now. See 50. 0.52 over here before we took off. Here we're at uh, not too far off. You can let me put a line on here. It's probably easier to see this way, right? Right there before we took off here, you can see just right here before we took off and around the same range. Over here, we were a little bit, um, well, basically there before FTX happened, right? We're basically right exactly where we were now before FTX happened and it fell off. So this is not a bad uh, place to be, kind of where you might expect to have another big move, right? Consolidating for a long time sideways, consolidating for a long time sideways, and then a big move. So maybe we see something like that. If we take a look at it here on the 2 week, we had a trigger here. We did we get a trigger on the 1 week over here? Yeah, we did, but it was early. Right, you can see these triggers. Okay, interesting. We had a trigger here. We had a trigger here. We had some. We had a decent move. Trigger here. We didn't get a trigger here on the BDZ score on this one, but and it is very low here on the MACD. That's interesting. So FET actually, let's look at it here. Let's zoom in a little bit. FET is actually looking. Wow, FET is actually looking very interesting on multiple time frames. So out of everything, this is the one that's most interesting for me to take a position on. FET. FET. All right. I'm going to mark this a different color so that I know to be interested in it. All right. Let's take a look. Let's go through some of these down here, some of these AI coins. This one here looks similar to FET. Velo. This one looks interesting. Right, it's been consolidating similar to FET, and this one here can move when it does move. Let's take a look at some of these moves when it did move. 70, 80% on that move. This one down here, let's go from here. 100%. All right, let's go from here. 170%. So this one, when it decides to move, and this was a massive move. This was a massive move. Look at that. Did a 16x right there. So this is an interesting one. Velo also looking good on the daily and looking good on the weekly. Look how low it is. Started to cool off a little bit, but that can turn green again pretty quick. Um, Velo looks interesting. Let's take a look at Akash. Akash looks interesting here on the weekly. Right, it triggered a sell here, so that's a little bit concerning actually. It triggered a sell here. That you can get multiple sells though as it continues to go up. Like this one here, it's not the same as Bitcoin triggering on the weekly or the monthly. What's it looking here on a higher time frame? Still there's still room for it to go. Let's take a look here at the daily. Daily's looking interesting. You can start to see here on the MACD it's starting to turn. We can hang out quite a while here. At the top on the daily, you can see we had it triggered over here and just hung out and stayed there at the top for quite a while. And we can see here for Akash, when it got its first trigger, it moved quite a bit already. But when it got its first trigger, it went up 125%. Here, it started to move. It went up 125%. Interesting. And how far have we gone up here? 56%. If we do something like another one of those moves, 125% or so, that gives us still another 40, 45% of this move if it ends up being something similar to these other ones. But you can see, certainly does look like a change in momentum in the other direction. We're getting higher highs and higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So this looks interesting. This looks interesting right here. Oh, I didn't click it. Akash also looks interesting. Hmm, okay. Vela looks interesting. Akash looks interesting. All right, let's take a look at Venice. Venice, it's been going like crazy, but it's starting to cool off. Like that's the daily. Let's take a look at a higher time frame. Whoa, look at this thing. This is crazy. Look at that. That's wild. Yeah, I think for me to be comfortable going into Venice, it's going to have a big cool off. A big cool off. So I'm just not touching it. There's other interesting coins out there that are less risky. All right, let's take a look at Arrow. I was looking at Arrow a while back, several days last week maybe, and it's looking interesting. You can see that it has a really nice pennant here. What's going on here? I'm just gonna go with this. All right, it's kind of working its way. A little bit of a pennant. Wherever you put these lines, come down. I like to do my best. It's kind of sitting halfway right now, but looks like it's still positive momentum. So even if you were an Arrow fan and you got in here, you're still looking at 70, 75% by the time it wakes its way up to this top resistance trend line again. So this is an interesting one if it's something that you want to start building on or a trade, right? Virtuals. Oh, interesting. Virtuals looks interesting. Let's take a look at it on a 3 day. 3 day, this is looking good. Starting to cool. Starting to turn around and flip more bullish. This is working its way up. Kind of stalled out a little bit there, but that's fine. Um, Daily looks good actually. We got a bullish cross here. It's starting to turn green on the MACD. We're moving up. This one actually looks pretty good. Virtuals is looking very interesting. Look at this. Look at that pennant. Virtuals looks very interesting. Hmm. Yeah. Look at this major support here. Even on the horizontal, came back down, hit that support. This is a really strong support right there. Virtuals looks interesting because if it broke out of here, it could. If it breaks out of here, maybe it comes back for a retest and then tests past all-time highs, which I wouldn't be surprised if it did that. Oh man, that's an 8x right there. That's very interesting. Okay, blink. Turn that on. Virtuals is interesting. This is not interesting. Let's turn those off. I don't want those or these the same color. All right. Okay. So we have a few interesting coins here that we were looking at. Virtuals, Akash, Velo, and Fetch. Those are the most interesting right now. I'm still watching and trying to keep an eye out for better entries on Tau and Render. We can see Tau just had it dropped just now a little bit. I didn't have anything lined up there, but when I was looking at it earlier, I don't think it was this low. Right? Let's take a look at the hour here on Tau. Yeah, we can see here it dropped about 3%. Yeah, almost 3% in the last hour. So we'll see. We'll see. I think I can get better entries on Tau and Render. So I'm trying to be patient with these two. But like I mentioned before, virtuals, Akash, Velo, and Fetch look look good. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah, talk to you guys soon. Later.